Good evening, viewers, and you're welcome to Family Connect. It's so exciting that we have an opportunity to come back with you and, share some things that are really important, not just to the millennials, but to the whole family as a whole. Well, that family as a result of the lockdown, we thought, how do we stay connected and remain connected as a family? And this is how we came to be, and we began to discuss issues that concern the family institution. So 2 weeks ago, we had a time with some millennials, and they're able to tell us where they're coming from. We listened attentively to them, and we just realized we didn't have enough time to cover all the issues. And so this is like the issue of millennials round two. This is the second time we're coming back to discuss issues that affect your lives and subsequently, our lives as the older generation, and see what we can do to help each other and to understand you better. And after this particular edition, we're actually going to have the parents come here to respond to everything you guys have said. So just know that your parents are listening to you and they want to respond to some of the things you will say. That's not to put you on a spot, but basically we just want to also hear from the older generation. So you're all welcome. And before we go any further, I'd like to introduce my guests that are present this evening. I'm going to start with Rahila, and that's Rahila up there. Rahila, she's waving to you. That's Rahila. Rahila is a 22-year-old psychology student at Laurentian University in Canada. And I'm so excited that Rahila is interested in family therapy and hopes to have a career in counseling. And she loves to bake as well and thinks of new ideas in her free time. Rahila, you're welcome to the program.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Next to Rahila is Uyai Ibanga. Uyai Ibanga is a pre-med student. How do I highlight it? Uyai Ibanga is a pre-med student at Texas Southern University, and she's interested in health care and global health. She's also passionate about health inequities, and she hopes to have a career addressing this problem. Uyai, you're welcome to the program.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Great. Next is Eddie Diong. Eddie Diong is a graduate from Texas Tech University. She has a bachelor's degree in chemistry. Eddie Diong has a passion for health and wellness and is also an advocate for taking care of one's physical, mental, and spiritual state in order to live a full and purposeful life. And in her free time, she enjoys serving at her church, reading, and watching YouTube. Eddie Diong, it's great to have you here.
Thank you for having me.
Okay. Next is Laolu. Laolu is a 21-year-old mechanical engineer who is about to start his master's program. Laolu is interested in innovative technology and its potential for the future. And in his free time, he enjoys playing football and watching Netflix. Laolu, you're welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me.
Hi. Thank you so much. And last but not the least is Ali, who is having a bit of a challenge with his network, but I trust that he will join us as the program goes on. Ali, and when he comes, I will introduce him to the group. All right. So, okay, he's right here. So I'm going to go ahead and introduce him. Okay, Ali, sorry, you're having a bit of a challenge with your network, but Ali is first and foremost a lover of God. He's a theater practitioner, a pidgin blogger, a filmmaker, and a civil servant. Ali, we're so blessed to have you with us. You're welcome to the program.
I am so honored. Thank you so much, ma'am. I'm honored to be here.
Thank you very much. So, it has been said, and research has found out that there's a high rate of loneliness among millennials, and the research have all kinds of findings that I'm not ready to divulge at this time, because I think that it's important that we hear from you. Is there a problem of loneliness? Is there a problem of depression? And do you think we have also a challenge of suicide among millennials? And if so, what are the causes? And then also we're going to talk about exactly what do we do, to help address those situations. So we're going to start from the point of loneliness. It's interesting that in this, era where technology and social media is available, everybody has about, 1,000 to 2,000 friends on social media. And yet there's a problem of lack of true friendship amongst the millennials that leads to loneliness. So is this something valid? Would you say that millennials are generally lonely, or is it just a perception? And anybody is free to start the ball rolling, to kick the ball. So who wants to open the door? I don't want to put anyone in the spot, but you're free to just, start talking if you want to. Edidion, it looks like you're ready.
Yeah, I was gonna say in regards to the social media, I feel like social media kind of gives a false sense of connection. So it's kind of as if you're connected to someone, but at the same time you're not. So I think I feel like millennials feel like they're connected to people because they see what they post on social media, whether it's Facebook, Instagram, and it makes it seem as if you're connected to that person, but in reality, you're not really having meaningful and intricate connections. So I can see where that loneliness kind of comes into play with that. Although we feel like we're more connected with social media, I think it's kind of pushing us further apart.
Yeah. Okay, Rahila, would you say that to a large extent, there is loneliness with amongst the millennials?
Yes, I would, because sometimes it's not even about, the amount of friends you have, because you can have people who care about you, but you still feel lonely.
Would you say they are generally lonely?
Yes, you still feel like you can't tell them anything. You still feel like you can't tell them anything. You feel like no one understands you and what you're going through. So you can have about 10 friends around you that care for you, but you just feel like no one really understands what you're going through and you can't really talk to anyone about it.
So yeah, would you say that social media, even though Edidion had mentioned a bit of it, would you say it has a large part to play in the loneliness? Excuse me. What I mean is that if millennials spend less time on social media, do you think it will still take care of the issue of their loneliness?
Like Adidiyang said, I feel like there's hyper connectivity. So we're all connected and, we're all like a button away from each other, but they're not really genuine connections. They're not really deep connections. So it's literally likes, retweets. They're just like push notifications. They're not deep enough to deal with loneliness. And I do think that time away
with issues.
I do think time away from social media can give you the clarity you need to actually work on building genuine connections. Yes.
Laulu, you want to come in here? What's your take on it?
So
Millennials
with
and
regard
loneliness.
to the whole millennial and loneliness on social media, I feel like partly because of how certain things are presented on social media, they're a lot more refined and a lot more polished up. So even to some degree, people feel like they may not be able to relate to people they follow or their friends, because you tend to only post like when you're having fun times, enjoying yourselves. So if someone who may not be entitled to that as much as you are is always seeing that side, they may not feel like they could relate. So even if you're friends and they want to open up, they don't feel like you're on the same level, so to speak.
So Ali, you want to come in here? Would you say it'll be better if millennials will actually work on having relationships that are outside the social media, like actually spending time with someone else, who is a friend or a potential friend? Ali, did you hear me? Can you come in here? Ali? Hello, Ali? Ali? Okay, we're going to come back to Ali later. Quite obviously, he cannot hear us. So, what is the cause of depression amongst the millennials? Because we seem to have a high percentage of it. Like there's a recent research. I'll go to the research figures about it. What's the cause of depression amongst millennials? Uya, you want to come in here?
Yes. I think social media has played a big role in depression and loneliness because, like Olalu said, we only show each other the best parts of our lives or the parts that is fun and presentable and perfect. And that can create a false sense of, you compare yourself to the other person's reality and feel like your issues are particular to you. So that can isolate you and make you feel alone and depressed.
Okay, Rahila, you want to add to that?
Same thing Grace said. I think it's isolation, like because you feel like you don't have anyone around you to talk to, so you kind of isolate yourself. Stay in your room in the dark all the time. You're not communicating with people. You're not going out with your friends or anything. You're just isolated. So I feel like that is what brings depression. So.
Yeah, I want to come in here and just add a little bit. In our time, even when you're in the university, you guys are in college now, but in the university, we stay in hostels. And I think that really, really helped because in hostels, we are about 20 people in a hall and we had bunkers, And by the time you graduate, or you are in a senior class, and you are in a room, you're usually sharing it. You hardly find someone in a room by itself. So would you say that some of the luxuries that come with your generation, for example, you have your room to yourself, you have an apartment to yourself, would you say that it is counterproductive? Because if it were like in the older generation, you'll have to share a hall, you'll have to share a room, and at least that keeps you interacting with other human beings. Edidian, what would you say about that?
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. And then also to add to that, I feel like millennials are under a lot of pressure to just like go, 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 and to attain this, to attain my own apartment, to have my own car, to be doing this in my career. So it's kind of a lot of pressure, and I think that could be one of the causes of depression with millennials.
So societal pressure, and would you say it's a peer expectation? Laulu, you want to come in here?
Okay, so I feel like how back then you'd be in like a hostel and a shared hall with a lot of people. Right now, if in universities you'd have, let's say, a flat, and the only shared area is maybe the kitchen, which is literally restricting you to only communicate if you happen to be cooking or eating. So even to that degree, it's not, even if it has a common room, it's not enough to get to know someone, because you're either doing an activity, but it only enables interactions for shorter periods of time.
Absolutely. So I think our generation did better in social interactions. Maybe we should go back to the old form of hostels for you guys. At least then you are forced to talk with other people, relate with other people, and things like that. Okay. Ali has been finding it really hard, which is internet, Ali, can you hear us now?
I'm so sorry
Ali,
about the network.
Yeah, so sorry. It's not your fault. Okay, while we have you, can you give us your contribution? We're talking about loneliness and depression amongst the millennials. Ali, can you speak? We're waiting for you. Oh, I don't think he can hear
Yes.
us. Okay, so let me quickly go to the next. There was a research carried out by the Economist and the KFF findings, and their research proved a very high level of loneliness amongst millennials. And they say this, the research says that millennials feel alone and 47 feel left out, and 54% feel that they always or sometimes feel like no one really knows them, that
First
no
of
one really
all,
knows them. So these figures are frightening. 54% of millennials feel that people don't really know you. I don't know where that noise is coming from, please. If there's anybody talking in your section, can you ask them to please keep quiet? Thank you. So these figures are frightening. 54% feel like people don't really know them. Do you think that is an accurate description or a close description of what millennials feel, that the older generations and even your peers don't really know you? And so it's easier for you to just stay in your world. Like it's difficult to pull you out. What would you say about these research figures? Yeah, you want to start?
I would say they sound
That
pretty.
people don't really know you. Do you get that impression?
Yes, I would say
Mm-hmm.
that percentage is high and it's pretty accurate because there's a lot of pressure that we put on ourselves, and there's lots of pressure, peer pressure as well,
Mm-hmm.
to strive to an image of perfection, and
Mm-hmm.
it kind of makes it hard to open up when you're struggling, when you're not perfect, when you're failing, and also
Mm-hmm.
not being close to our parents in a way that we feel like we're friends, the way we feel like I'm opening up, not when I've done something good and I like for praise, but when I'm struggling, when I don't feel like myself.
Mm-hmm.
That kind of, again, with isolation, keeps you and your problems together in one place by yourself.
Mm-hmm. Rahila, do you feel you are a misunderstood generation? Do you feel that?
Definitely, definitely. I feel like our parents play a huge part in that because, as you're growing up, they don't tell you, oh, you can come and talk to them about anything. They don't make you comfortable, that comfortable. They make you understand that, yeah, they're your parents and that is what it is. And then when you go older,
Mm-hmm.
they now start to want to get to know you. And it doesn't work that way. So obviously, don't be the first people you think about when you're trying to talk to them about being lonely
Mm-hmm.
and everything. And then you also have your mates that let's say you have someone
Yeah.
that has graduated, like your friend that has graduated, and you're not graduating anytime soon. You start to feel like they won't understand what you're going through
Mm-hmm.
because obviously they've achieved something that you haven't. And at that time, you don't feel like you can tell
Mm-hmm.
anybody about it because you feel like a failure, basically. Because nobody really talks about stuff like that. They really talk
Mm-hmm.
about what they have achieved and what they're yet to achieve, but like it's not like people are actually actively talking about these things, their downfalls or anything, or like their struggles. So definitely a misunderstood.
Mm. Yeah. And that just isolates you some more and pushes you into depression.
Yes.
So, what do we do to break this circle? I mean, um, how can, what do we do to break the communication lines between millennials and the older generation? Edidiang, you want to come in there and then Laolu will follow?
Okay.
What can be done to break that communication gap?
I definitely feel like we need to work on communication. So I feel like communication is what's going to solve it. And I think initially having those conversations is going to be kind of hard. It's going to be out of our comfort zone for millennials and for the older generation. But I feel like those conversations are necessary to kind of bridge the gap and to like start with this as a solution.
So parents are trying so hard to understand the millennials. We're trying so hard to understand you, but you guys are so closed up. You don't want to open up. We say you open up to each other more than you do to us. And you think and you think we don't have the time for you. So it looks like there's just nothing we can do. Laulu, what can we do? We do want to understand you. We wish you would consider us as friends. We wish you would open up some more. But even when you guys talk to each other, you don't look like, I don't see the freedom and the liberty and the innocence of the older generation, your age, when they related with each other. So, I mean, where are we getting it wrong? What should we do? Laulu.
So to start off, I feel like being able to talk to the older generation, which would be your parents, would have to mean that they be open and be willing to listen to anything you have to say. So for an example, a lot of the occupations that would have been considered, you know, to bring in a lot of money back then are not feasible right now. So today you could have a teenage YouTuber earning millions of dollars, but anyone that obviously tries to tell their parents that they want to be a YouTuber, it's not going to go well, that kind of thing. So you could work remotely and literally just work on your trade or whatever you do from home and perfect it, and it could be a well-paid occupation. But thinking about how, especially if from young, if let's say you've had the kind of parents who, you know, for example, if you're not doing well in school, they push you. There's always pressure to succeed, do well, to be excellent, to be more than mediocre. And then you fail, you try to talk to your parents about it, but you still get pushed down a bit. It leads you to closing up one, being more reluctant to opening up. So when it gets to the point that it's reoccurring and you become older, it's a lot harder. So if you now have the issues with, let's say, you want to do this, you want to do that, or this is happening, that is happening, you don't feel as willing to share. So you could even then decide to talk to a peer who would not give you the correct advice.
Okay, that's a hard one to choose. So we older generation, we have some work to do. But I just want you to understand that we are willing to give it a try. We are willing to listen. We are willing to just sit down and hear a different perspective from what we're used to. And you also need to know that we're changing. Things are evolving with time, and you need to also give us that opportunity, and you need to accept that we're changing and we're now ready to listen. Ali, can you hear us? We really would want to hear your voice at this time, if the network allows you.
Okay.
Please, let's hear your thoughts.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, go ahead. We're talking about loneliness, depression amongst the millennials.
Okay,
go ahead, Ali.
I was saying first and foremost, understand that loneliness is a state of the mind, depression and all that. They are actually an imbalanced state of the mind. And when it comes to people feeling lonely, a person can be in the midst of a crowd and still feel lonely. And yet they can be alone and not be lonely. It's just an imbalanced state of the mind. And while my network was fluctuating, I overheard we are talking about the social media and the lonely. Can you still hear me?
Yes.
Yes, clearly. Continue.
Can you still hear me?
Absolutely, yes.
Okay, fine. I overheard we are talking about, okay, about loneliness and social media. I want to state here that social media, the advent of social media has actually filled a vacuum. Let us understand that nature abhors vacuum. It has actually filled a vacuum. Now, in reality, it does not really fill the vacuum that is needed for us to grow. But then, because it is the most popular thing that is keeping the youths alive, especially especially the millennials, everybody tends to be looking up to the social media to fill that void, to fill that vacuum. And when the reality dawns on them,
Well, looks like the internet is acting up again. So sorry about that. Hopefully, when he comes through, he will continue his conversation. Too bad we're having problems with that. I think we should have brought him here to do this thing so that we all stay together. Anyway, so I want to read some of the comments that are coming in right now. And Chinwe Udogu actually said it's an interesting topic. And sometimes I wish all the phones and tabs will disappear for some months. And she's not the only one with that opinion. We also have Comfort Adesoye saying social media gadgets should just disappear. So these are some of the things we feel. We feel like these gadgets and social media are the cause of this loneliness, depression, and even suicidal thoughts amongst millennials. What would you say to that? Would you say that these gadgets and social media should disappear? Laulu.
So I agree to some degree that there should be a balance between being able to physically interact with people and having your gadgets. Now the issue is that self-discipline, knowing when to call it quits, when enough is enough, but then the benefit social media provides is that rather than paying, okay, you want to take a cab to go and see your friend, you could just call them on FaceTime, and that cuts a lot of costs, So you'd rather have like a phone call or a video call rather than actually going there. And I feel like if that's considered in every situation, you'd rather not have to spend any money to see your friends and have the same communication. Not same level of communication, but have pretty much the same conversations you'd have physically. But then once that becomes the default, then you're not even going to think twice about having to have that physical interaction. You just rather call everyone.
Okay. What's your opinion? Social media gadgets should disappear. And also another parent also said that all these phones and all the other gadgets really should disappear. I know Laulu is talking about the need for balance, and he has also highlighted some advantages of social media or those gadgets. What do you think, Yai?
I agree with Olalu. There definitely needs to be balance, and it's a personal thing. You need to be able to check yourself and know when you're overdoing it or when you're overindulging, and take breaks, take months away from the app, delete Instagram, delete Twitter. They'll always be there, but take breaks when it becomes all consuming and starts having more negative and positive effects.
Absolutely. So Rahila, there's another parent that said parents are trying so hard to understand millennials, and another parent says that they feel we don't understand them. Make us understand you then. You guys feel we don't understand you, then can you what can you do to make us understand you? We do want to understand. That's what one parent is saying. What's your response to that?
I think it's a process. Like, if they're not just going to wake up one day and say, okay, yeah, I trust you, like, I'm going to tell you everything and I feel you understand me. It's gradually, because we didn't grow up like that. We didn't grow up with knowing, oh, yeah, you can tell me everything. I mean, some parents are like that, but obviously what they meant was the good things. It's not obviously like everything, because they'll judge you. Like, they have to understand that when I'm coming to tell you about stuff, you have to understand there's no judging. You have to understand that people go through things. You have to be willing to understand everything I'm going through. Not just, you can't pick and choose what you want to understand and what you don't want to. And I wanted to add to the social media thing. I feel like some people actually do benefit from it more than because there are lots of people that have been depressed that found people on social media who have helped them. So it's definitely like a personal thing. You have to understand what consumes your thoughts and everything. You can't just, because there's some people that really understand that, there's some people that benefit from it a lot. There's some people that really it has saved their lives basically, especially when it comes to depression. It has saved some people from committing suicide, saved some people from cutting themselves and stuff. So yeah, that's what I want to
say. Thank you so much, Rahila. Ali, are you back now? Can you complete what you were sharing? So sorry you're having a tough time with internet.
Okay, the network is really getting me off balance. Okay, okay, I was saying that loneliness, depression, all these things are state of the mind, and until every individual tends to work on their state of their minds, they will keep falling back on this loneliness thing, depression thing that leads to suicide and suicidal thoughts. Depends. I heard Laura talking about self-discipline. I think I'm into that. Everyone needs to have a self-disciplined attitude towards the issues of life. If you allow life to shoulder you with too much of their responsibilities, you tend to fall back to this loneliness and depression thing. I've seen so many places where spirit-filled people who should be like spiritual guides to young people and others tend to fall back to things like depression and loneliness and start having suicidal thoughts. Let us all understand that it is not a cause or something that you say it's out of the blues. No, everybody is prone towards it, but you as an individual should learn to have a positive attitude and a strong mental approach towards things.
Thank you so much for that contribution. Okay, we have another contribution. There's somebody that said, okay, you guys say we don't understand you. Her opinion is frustrating, honestly. I think that's a parent speaking. She said it's frustrating, honestly, that 80% of them do not have balance in their vocabulary. We can only keep talking and praying for them. So that's the opinion. Just as you feel you are not understood, some parents feel actually frustrated because they do want to understand you. They do want to have this relationship with you that's better than it has been in the past, or that's better than what they had with their parents. I agree with Rahila. Tradition and culture has something to do with it, and that's not the way we're brought up. But now that we have found ourselves, and there is a problem on our hands, and this problem is that loneliness amongst millennials can lead to depression and even suicidal, thoughts. And we don't want that to happen, we don't want that to happen. So I think parents feel helpless and they don't know what to do. That's why one is saying it's really frustrating, And so for the next round of discussion, we need to start talking about solutions. What can we do? But before we do that, Laolu, I just want to read this out to you since you're in London. It's interesting. This same research said that nearly half of Britons, no, this research is saying that it's not only millennials that are lonely. It says older people, nearly half of Britons over 65, consider the television or a pet their main source of company. So it's not just a millennial issue. There's also an older generation that is feeling lonely, that do not have people in their lives and can only resort to the television or a pet, a cat or a dog, or something like that. But so the issue of loneliness is not peculiar to millennials. All right. What can we do? practically, because I'm just stating this to, highlight that research that is not limited to millennials. But for millennials, what can you do practically, to address loneliness, friends that are getting depressed? How do you even know they're getting depressed? What are the signs? What are the symptoms? What are the indications that somebody is becoming suicidal? And what can you do about it? Now, this is for all of you to share. Anybody can chip in anything, from all of this. Lauli, you want to set the ball rolling, and then others will join in.
So one thing I noticed in the UK is that, especially when applying jobs, there are a lot of opportunities in like old senior citizen care centers. And partially this is due to the fact that once the way the lifestyle here is in the UK is that once you reach a certain age, you're working so much that if you haven't got a family, but which most people do, you have to take care of your kids, your spouse, everyone. And then you may not even bring home enough income to then take care of your parents. And some people tend to see the they tend to see the aging parents as a burden. So they end up shipping them to care centers and old people homes so that they have less people to deal with. And then this leads to their parents being depressed, having to result in hotlines to keep them company. I know there's a line you can call if you're old, and what happens is people just volunteer to talk to senior citizens just to check up on them on a daily to see how their day is going, if they're busy, what they've done, this and that. I know there's also some new social media app that's been going on during the pandemic to keep old people company. It's for the younger generations, but anyone can. It's really open to anyone. So you could go sign up and have conversations with a specific person every day to see how they're doing, what they've done, checking up on the person.
Thank you. You want to come in here? What are the symptoms that somebody is going into depression and becoming suicidal, and what should we do?
A lot of times it's withdrawal and just wanting to be alone and isolated, and they don't really talk or eat. It's different for everyone, but I would say generally withdrawal is a good indication. And to the comments about parents being frustrated, I think there has to be a level of trust. When a child is withdrawn and sad, you shouting and saying, but I'm trying to talk to you, but I'm here for you, that doesn't really do anything if it's not from a place of understanding. You want to understand, but your method is, I want to understand now, I'm here, so tell me. And that's not how it works. So there has to be trust and understanding on both sides. The child has to trust that they're safe with you. The child has to trust that they're emotionally safe with you. They can open up to you without you turning it on their heads, without you saying depression is not an African thing, without it, without you gaslighting your child. So in the parent's frustration, there has to be patience, and there has to be mutual trust that's built between them for anything to work.
Thank you so much for those thoughts. Rahila, you want to come in here? How can we help someone who is going through those phases of loneliness, depression, and we don't want it to proceed to suicide?
How can you help someone? Okay, so I think honestly, the person has to be able to tell you, like to talk to you, because there are some people that will be normal, will smile with you, and then when they go back to their rooms, they're back to the they're back to being depressed. They can smile, they can go out with their friends and everything, and they're still depressed. So I think it starts with just letting them know, just letting them be aware that you're here for them, no matter what. And the problem in Nigeria is you don't know about all these things until you're like 20 something. Then you're aware that, oh, yeah, you can talk to people about your feelings. But when you're a teenager, unless you needed someone to talk to, then you weren't really taught to talk to someone then. So I think also starts with school. Schools need to be able to tell their students about, schools need to be able to have counselors in their school and talk to students that tell them that they are able to come to counselors to talk to them about anything. At least I think it starts from there, because then they'll be comfortable enough with their parents, I guess. But schools also have a huge part to play in it. Yeah, I think that's all I'm going to say.
Thank you. Eddie John, what should we do? How do you detect the signs? What should be done?
I definitely feel like some of the signs, like Yai said, one of them is withdrawal. That's a major one. A lot of people who are depressed also feel lack of motivation to do anything. They lose their sense of purpose. And depending on the reason why you're depressed, I feel like there's different solutions, but I do believe that we need to take a holistic approach to it, because I personally believe your mind, your body, your spirit is all related. So I feel like if you're going through mental illnesses like depression and you're having these negative thoughts, we need to now ask, okay, what am I doing with my body? A lot of millennials, the lifestyle is go, 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 go. It's one thing to the next. We're losing sleep, we're not eating healthy. So I feel like that, obviously those two things, if you're not doing that, you're going to start to be anxious. You're going to start to have depressive thoughts. In terms of spiritual, we're not, like, if you're not connecting to a source, which for me it's God, like if you're not connecting to God, if you're not being in tune with your spirit, your mental is going to suffer from it as well. So I definitely feel like we need to start taking a holistic approach to it. We need to start taking care of our spirit. We need to take care of our physical. And I think it will definitely have some effect on the mental. So.
Absolutely. Excellent. Thank you so much for that contribution. You guys are speaking so excellently well. You're letting us know what we should do. Laulu, you want to chip in here? What should be done? Is it easier to detect those things in a female than it is with the guys?
I would say that to some degree, because females tend to be more in tune with their emotions and more open to sharing and talking about things. I would say that it's possible that there will be a higher chance in them overcoming those things than males.
Okay, so I'm going to read a few comments. Edijon, do you want to say something?
Yeah, I just wanted to add on to that. I feel like...
Did you want to say something?
Yes. I feel like society kind of makes it easier for a female to be more open about it. And society kind of trains men to get over it and just suffer in silence. So yeah, I wanted to add on to that.
Okay, and then there's also the pressure of, be a man and don't let them know you're going through a tough time. You can handle it, kind of thing.
Things like that.
Would you say that's valid?
Yes. I would also add, because even personally, like the conversations I used to have with my friends from secondary school back then compared to now, it's changed. Like things we talk about, if we talk about, let's say, deeper things, let's say stuff going on in our personal lives right now, if we were to have those conversations back then, it will probably end up being like a guy, like chested, bone it, move on, that kind of thing. But right now we can actually relate and open up to each other a lot more.
Okay, that's really great. That's really great. So let me just read a few comments. Um, Ayanfe Olua Sophia said, with our current technological climate, our parents grew up in a different world than we did. We know that. That makes it easier for us to talk to our friends because they share our experiences. It's hard to understand people you don't relate with. Listen to me. We do want to relate with you. Can you please start relating with us?
Can I say something to that?
Yes, go ahead.
I don't think there's anything new under the sun. I don't think our experiences are dramatically different, but I think African parents need to be real with us. At this age, I had these problems. At this age, I related to what you're going through now. But more come down to our level and be a friend rather than the parent-child relationship that do this because I said so and because it's wrong and because I know better. There has to be, transparency and honesty and have those conversations. Fathers need to have certain conversations with their daughters. That's not really something, that's common in the African home. It's just don't do this, don't do that because it's bad. But as your age, you probably made those mistakes. As your age, you probably, fell sometimes. So we need to have that open communication with our parents and for us to also see them as people. There are people who also had experiences who were our age at some time. So yes, that is a good starting point.
Excellent. Interesting. Very good, Uyai. Thank you. And who was it that's speaking? Oh, Ali is having such a hard time today. That's just too bad. Okay. So the second comment here, and we're getting ready to round up. We have about 10 minutes left. There's a comment that's written here. I'm trying not to read it, but I'll have to. Before then, this one says, even the older generation who are immigrants to the technology and to the technology age are now caught up in the bug of gadgets, replacing relationships. So self-control holds a major key. So it's not a problem that is limited to the millennials. Somebody talked about discipline, another person talked about balance. And here we have a comment saying self-control is needed, and the obsession with gadgets, social media, the addiction, I would say, or the risk of addiction is not limited to millennials. Even older generation stand that risk. And we just need the self-control, the discipline, and the balance. All right. So Mrs. Adesoye say chested, boned. Times have times have definitely changed, even the lingo. Do you think we are not communicating because we don't speak the same language now? So there's a language barrier, right, between our generation and you. And we did mention it the other time we talked with the millennials, and quite obviously there is a language barrier. Who wants to comment? You don't want to share your language with us? You don't want to
Not
teach
really.
us? How can we communicate?
It's not really a barrier. It's just words. It's not really a barrier. It's not really a barrier.
But what if we don't understand the words? Words are meant to communicate, and if we're not understanding, then there's no communication, right? Everyone is laughing because they know that. Ali, please come in while we have you. Please speak. Ali is frozen. I really want to apologize. That's so bad. We would have loved to hear what Ali has to say. Okay. Finally, I want to bring the aspect of our spirituality. It's very, very important. You know, my heart goes out to every young person that's going through a rough time, that is depressed, is lonely, and is even considering suicidal thoughts. You know, I want you to say one thing to such a person, each one of you. What would you say to somebody who is going through that phase right now? Can I start with Laolu?
I definitely think that having a close relationship with God is key. Being able to talk to Him, pray about anything. I also feel like sometimes the best solution, because with the African mentality, mental health it has recently come to light that it's actually an issue, because you would most likely get, in some homes, you most likely get a go and pray about it, whereas talking is the perfect solution for that specific case, you know. Whereas that's all you needed to do, just hear somebody or have someone hear you out and have them comfort you. But if you get a go pray about it, you know, you don't have that physical comforting that could have been resolved then. Instead, you have an issue that has been, you know, pushed on, and you end up keeping it in even longer. So I feel like when you couple the two together, your spiritual life plus also having someone to talk to about it, I feel like that would really help.
Amen. Thank you. Edidion, you are speaking to somebody who is lonely right now, going through depression, and is even having suicidal thoughts. What's the one thing you would say to that person?
I would definitely tell them to tap into the spiritual aspect. Kind of like what Iyad was saying, there's nothing new under the sun. And if you look at the book of Psalms, like you see that David kind of had those same feelings. Like he was talking about how he was feeling depressed and kind of just lonely and all those things. So it's like what you're going through is like you're not alone in those things. So I'll definitely like really hang on to God, like seek God, and just pour your heart out to God, really. And it's like you're not alone in that sense. So I'll definitely say tap into that, and then also kind of like find a church where you can get yourself plugged into, because as humans we're not meant to like be alone.
Yes,
we're meant to fellowship with other people. And so once you have that fellowship and you have people that can kind of hold you accountable and people that can actually be there for you, not just you're tackling it by yourself, I think that will help a lot as well.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Edidion. Rahila, it's your turn.
I'd say with every hardship comes ease. You always not always be sad, but you have those times where you're down and you feel like you can't talk to anyone, you can't talk to God. You really can, without even saying a word. You can cry. He understands your pain. He understands whatever you're going through, and it's just a phase. You will really come out of it, and you have people that love you and want you around and need you. So please, please, please pray. Talk to somebody. And yeah, that's it.
Thank you so much, Rahila. Uyai.
Along the lines of what Rahila said, there's always lights at the end of the tunnel. How you're feeling now, you're not going to feel like that forever. Just to have hope and not give up, because depression just narrows your vision. Everything they're going through, you feel like this is forever, and that's why it's so awful. But just to have hope and to have faith and connect with God, and not connecting with God the way we followed our parents to church as children, but connect with God for yourself, a personal connection that, you know, is just you and God, nobody else. That's so important.
Thank you so much. I wish it looks as if we're just starting the conversation, and yet we've come to the end of this conversation. It's just been wonderful having you guys. And I seem to have the impression that you millennials are not very friendly towards each other. Am I wrong, or is it just a face you guys put on? Laulu is not even laughing at all. Anyway, final comments. And Chinwe said, "Don't blame us too much, guys. We are trying, and we will keep trying. You guys should cooperate with us." Okay. Then Ebiba Kanos Akuboku said, "Wonderful conversation. I'm really learning. One can be in the crowd, but yet lonely." And finally, here, millennials are just scared of being judged. And oftentimes, when we tell the older generation our problems, it's often used against us in future, either as an example or a measure of scolding. So we just bottle up our feelings. The solution to depression and loneliness among millennials and other generation is to understand that the Holy Spirit is not just a spirit being, but he is a personality. Someone you can tell anything and he won't judge you. Thank you so much. Sunday O Academy Junior, that came from you. And Omilani Ezekiel said relationship with God and being intentional with God is very important. And for my final thoughts, I would like to add that sometimes depression and suicidal thoughts are caused by demonic oppression. And when you're going through things like that, look for someone that can pray with you and for you and cast out that demon. We don't talk about it, but there's a spirit of depression, there's a spirit of death or suicide that just torments people. And that's why it's important to take your spiritual work, very important. Have a pastor. If you have a rough time talking with your parents, talk with your pastor. Have your pastor pray for you. And sometimes those spirits will be cast out. Well, this is where we come to the end of this wonderful edition. I cannot thank you enough. Laulu, it's really been great having you and good to see you after so many years.
Good to see you too. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Laulu. Thank you. Thank you for your contributions and your thoughts. Believe me, we'll take note of them. Edidion, thank you. What can I say? You guys are just amazing. Thank you for your thoughts. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Rahila, I wish I could keep you guys forever. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
We love you so much. Thank you.
Me.
Thank you, Rahila.
Thank you for having me.
Herself. Thank you, Uyai. Thank you for your thoughts. We really, the madam herself, we thoroughly enjoyed having you here.
Thank you for having us.
Okay, and so on a final note, we would like you all to say goodbye in your language as we switch off for the night. Starting with Laulu, you say goodbye and good night in your language.
In my language.
You know that language? Okay.
Au revoir. Bonne nuit.
Okay.
Okay. I'll tell your parents you're not a Frenchman. Edidio, it's your turn.
Good night.
Good night and goodbye.
Good night, everyone.
No language? Oh my God, we're in trouble. Rahila, goodbye and good night in your language.
Say the Safi and say Anjima.
Okay, say the Safi, say Anjima Mungode. Uyai, it's your turn. Goodbye and good night in your language.
Anjima.
You just copied Rahila. Well, thank you all for coming. God bless all of you. God keep you.
Amen. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Goodbye. Goodbye. Bye. Love you all. Bye-bye.